So how can we define success? Now, success in the world is defined very simple: bigger and better. We define basically by numbers, something we can control and measure. And so we actually just bring that into the church, right? And the church is growing, more small groups, more people attending, more money, more buildings, whatever. That's how we feel like we're a success or we're not a success. But the Bible defines success quite differently. And success is, let me just define it, and I'll expound on it. Success is becoming the person God has called you to become and doing what God has called you to do in His way, in His timing. Okay, so it's quite different. So you could actually be, quote, succeeding by the world standards and failing. So it's not bad to count by numbers, because you do see that, for example, in the book of Acts. We do have a book in the Bible called the Book of Numbers. So it's not bad. The problem is it's the only thing we count as success, and that's a big problem. So, for example, we find David, for example, in Chronicles, counting his fighting men as a source of pride, and it is a disaster. And God ends up disciplining him for that because it came out of a place of pride. So it's a great danger as well. And I remember finally getting a grasp on God's definition of success, which is so different than the world's, and realizing, oh, I could grow this church to 10,000 people and say, God, here it is. Here's the church I built for you. And he'll say, Pete, I never asked you to build that. That wasn't for you to build a church of 10,000. He built it for me and really built it for you. And that was supposed to be for the guy down the street. You were supposed to build a different kind of a church, less people. In fact, you were supposed to be making some disciples, and some folks were going to follow you in the next generation and do some great things for me numerically, but that wasn't your place to do. Again, success is becoming the person God called you to become, number one, and doing what He's called you to do in His timetable and in His way. That's radically different. And that's why you have in the Bible people like, let's take John the Baptist. I mean, the guy had some great crowds, but they kind of dissipated as the people moved to Jesus. He ends up getting his head cut off. Didn't look like much of a success to me, from a numerical point of view. Amos was a prophet. He left the southern kingdom and went to the northern kingdom of Israel. No one really responded to his message. Same thing with Isaiah and Jeremiah, great prophets. Each of them had 40 to 50-year ministries, did not have a great following or reaction. In fact, the life of Jesus, from a numerical viewpoint, was quite disastrous. Because even at the very end, he ended up with just a few, 11, and he never quite hit the popularity place and success by the world standards. The Pharisees and Sadducees and religious people of his day were very concerned about how other people saw them and other people's opinion. But if you look at Jesus' ministry, Herod still remained in power. Rome still had their evil empire. The Sadducees and the Pharisees still controlled the temple and religious life. And Jesus looks like he's going around healing some people in Galilee and kind of running an ambulance ministry on the side. And he dies crucified, looking like a total failure. But failure was his way to success. And it was through the crucifixion came life for the salvation of the world. And so let me encourage you. You need to develop and cultivate your loving union with Jesus. That's the most important thing you do in life, because it's out of there, as you abide in Jesus, you're able to become the person He's called you to become and then listen to Him. What is success for you in your unique situation, out of your unique person, at your unique moment in history? And whatever that is, you want to start measuring things like quality, not just numbers. Once you can get a hold of that, and it is some work to get clear on that, you can just rest and relax and then move out in joy with a real sense of peace, because you're not measuring yourself by what people think, and you're not measuring yourself by one measurement, which is by far not the only measurement in Scripture at all. So be a success. Become the person God's called you to become, and do what God's called you to do in His way and in His timetable.